The story begins on a quiet street in a small American town where a man named James lived. James was not just any man. He was a proud veteran who had served his country with honor. He had lived a simple but fulfilling life after leaving the military. He had a modest house, a loving family, and one prized possession, his Harley Davidson motorcycle. That Harley wasn't just a bike. It was his freedom, his therapy, and his last connection to the roaring adventures of his younger years. Every weekend, James would polish it, ride through the countryside, and feel the wind remind him that he was still alive. But life has a way of testing people, and James's biggest test came through his granddaughter, Emily. She was only 7 years old, bright and full of life, but she had been born with a rare medical condition. For years, her parents struggled to cover the costs of her treatments, but recently the bills had piled up so high that even with insurance, the family couldn't keep up. When James learned that Emily's next round of medicine would cost thousands of dollars money they simply didn't have, he knew what he had to do. Without hesitation, James made the hardest decision of his life. He put his Harley up for sale. The day he wheeled it out of the garage for the last time, his heart broke a little. That motorcycle had been with him through so many chapters of his life, through lonely nights, joyful road trips, and even moments of healing after the war. But now, his granddaughter's life mattered more than anything. When the buyer handed him the cash and rode away on his Harley, James stood silently in the driveway. He felt empty, but at the same time he felt a deep sense of purpose. That money would pay for Emily's medicine. She would smile again, she would laugh again, and she would live. And for James, that was enough. What James didn't know, however, was that his sacrifice was about to echo far beyond his family. A neighbor who had heard the story posted about it online. The post spread quickly, reaching the eyes of some people James never imagined would care. The notorious motorcycle club known as the Hells Angels. Now, most people think of the Hells Angels as nothing but trouble, but the truth is, they are a brotherhood with a deep code of loyalty, respect, and surprising compassion when it comes to fellow bikers and veterans. When they read about a war veteran who had sold his Harley to save his granddaughter, they felt a fire inside them. To them, it wasn't just about a man losing a bike, it was about brotherhood, sacrifice, and the kind of love that deserved to be honored. A week later, James was sitting on his porch when he heard a deep rumble in the distance. At first, he thought it was just a few bikes passing through town, but the sound grew louder, heavier, until the ground itself seemed to shake. James stepped into the street, and his eyes widened. Dozens upon dozens of Harley Davidson motorcycles rolled into his neighborhood, their chrome gleaming in the sun, their engines roaring like thunder. Leather jackets with the unmistakable Hells Angels patch glistened as biker after biker lined up on both sides of his street. Neighbors peeked from their windows, shocked and even frightened, as the legendary motorcycle club took over the block. James stood frozen, wondering what in the world was happening. Then one of the bikers, a tall man with tattoos covering his arms, stepped forward. He removed his helmet and walked up to James with a firm, respectful gaze. "Brother," he said, "we heard about what you did for your granddaughter. No man should have to sell his soul for his family's health. You served this country, you've already paid your dues. Now it's our turn to ride for you." James didn't know how to respond. His voice trembled as he tried to thank them, but before he could, the man signaled to the group. From the crowd of bikers, one Harley was pushed forward. It was brand new, shining black with chrome accents, polished to perfection. A ribbon was tied to the handlebars. "This is yours," the biker said. "You may have sold your Harley, but no veteran, no grandfather who loves his family like you do should be without one. Consider this our gift from one brotherhood to another." James's eyes filled with tears. He tried to refuse, shaking his head, saying he couldn't accept something so valuable. But the bikers surrounded him, clapping him on the back, insisting that he deserved it. They didn't just give him a bike. They gave him his pride back. The entire street erupted with the thunder of engines as the Hells Angels fired up their bikes. But before they left, they did something unforgettable. They handed James an envelope. Inside was a collection they had taken up among themselves, not just enough to cover Emily's medicine, but enough to ensure she would have treatments for a long time to come. James held that envelope in his hands, overwhelmed. These men, strangers, outcasts in the eyes of society, had just given him back hope. For Emily, for his family, for himself. As the bikers rode away, the rumble fading into the distance, James sat back down on his porch, staring at the Harley gleaming in his driveway. His neighbors, who had once whispered nervously about the sight of the Hells Angels, now looked on with admiration. They had witnessed something powerful that day, a reminder that kindness doesn't always come from the people you expect. From that day forward, James rode his Harley with a deeper sense of purpose. Every time he turned the key, he thought of Emily, of sacrifice, of brotherhood. And when he looked into the eyes of his granddaughter, full of life thanks to the generosity of others, he knew he had made the right choice. The story of James and the Hells Angels spread far and wide, inspiring countless people. It wasn't just about motorcycles. It wasn't just about a veteran or a biker club. It was about love, sacrifice, and the way humanity can surprise you in the most unexpected ways. Because sometimes, the people the world labels as outlaws can turn out to be the biggest heroes. And sometimes, the rumble of motorcycles filling your street doesn't bring fear, it brings hope, respect, and the sound of a family being lifted up when they needed it most.